Hey, I'm glad you're here. Welcome to Wapkutim Mapkuteo, which means you're listening to me, I am listening to you. I'm Aurélie Zephyr, a licensed therapist, and this podcast is a safe space for the Haitian community to talk openly about mental health, trauma, anxiety, depression, and more, and learn practical tools to help us heal and grow. On this show, we'll have honest conversations, share tips you can actually use, and explore how taking care of your mental wellness can help you show up as your best self for you, your family, and your community. Whether you're just starting your mental health journey or looking to go deeper, this podcast is here to guide you. So, take a deep breath, settle in, and let's listen, learn, and heal together. Just a quick note before we get into today's episode. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only, and it is not a substitute for individual therapy. Okay, y'all, let's get into it. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Wapkute Mapkute. I'm so glad you're here with me again for this third episode on healing. In episode 1, we asked the big question: does everyone really need healing? In episode 2, we looked at the illusion of nothing to heal, the time we convince ourselves we're fine. Today, I want to dive deeper into something even less visible: the hidden wounds we carry. These are the wounds that don't leave obvious scars, but they shape how we think about ourselves, how we think about the world, um, about others, how we feel and connect. They are the ones we might not name, but they are still present in our lives. We said in the first two episodes, how not all wounds come from dramatic or obvious events, right? We talked about how some are subtle, unspoken, or carried silently across generation, and that they hide in the background of our lives, but they quietly influence everything we do. By diving deeper, I want to identify and explore what are these wounds, right? The hidden wounds. Today, we're going to explore 3 types of hidden wounds. And the first one is actually when generational trauma is passed down from generation to generation. Let's just say, for example, your great-grandmother, your mother or grandmother, they lived either something that was traumatic, that was obvious, it was a big event, or it could have been something very hidden that they went through, something they didn't think of it as um worth addressing, right? Um, And as a result of these experiences, their way of thinking, their way of seeing the world, their way of feeling about certain things or feelings in general was changed. There were some patterns that were evolved, some patterns that came into effect, or some pattern that they adopted as a result. There were some beliefs that probably would change, or some beliefs that came into effect, right? As a result of these experiences. And then when you came to life, right, it started showing in the way they address you, or they parent you, right? The way you are being parented, the beliefs that are being um taught to you, right? That are a result of this traumatic or this painful experiences that were not healed. So, generational trauma is pain that travel through families when it isn't being healed. When it hasn't been healed, it doesn't vanish. It passes through silence, strictness, fears, or survival behaviors. And for us Asian, this is very real. The history of colonization, slavery, dictatorship, and migration isn't just something in history books. It shows up in our families. It shows up how our families raise us, and the silences we keep, and in the weight we carry, even if we never through this, lived through those events ourselves. Another example of the type of hidden wounds is it shows up in our attachment, the way we connect with others, and most importantly with ourselves. So when we are little, right, we have emotional needs. And when these needs are not met, they're not fully met in childhood, they show up in adulthood. They show up in our relationship, the way we connect with others. So maybe you had a parent that was emotionally distant. Maybe love felt conditional, like you had to do things to feel loved. You were praised when you achieved, but not when you were simply you. Or maybe you felt like it wasn't safe to express your emotion. And as adults, these small but repeated experiences can show up as difficulty trusting others, right? Fear of abandonment, or always feeling like you have to earn love. These are wounds too, even if they are invisible. And the last one that I want to cover in this episode is unspoken grief. Many of us um think that grief is only when we lose someone, but in reality, grief comes more often than we think of. Grief can come in the form of losing a friend, a friendship, not necessarily that person dying, but that person no longer being part of our lives. It could be a job that we lost. It could be a dream that we had and that never came to be. Right? So grief is part of life. So when the losses were never acknowledged, right? It stays with us. Maybe also it was a miscarriage in the family that was never talked about, or a sibling died before you were born, but the silence around it linger. Maybe it's a family separation, or others told you to get over something that you wished for, right? Um, Sometimes too, as little kid, in families where emotions are not talked about, or the example we just gave, I just talked about earlier, when you have to do stuff to get love, and a kid living in an environment like that, it's always, doing stuff thinking that at some point they're gonna feel love. And as an adult, even being adult, sometimes even being a high achieving adult, the love is still not expressed, the love is still not there, right? The parents are not able to express how much they love, their kid. And sometimes grieving is grieving the parent that you deserved but never had. Even if that parent is alive, even if you do have a relationship with that parent, sometimes grieving how you wanted to be loved by your parent, or the type of parent you deserved, period, right? That you never have. And maybe you come to the conclusion that your parent will never, be able to fulfill these needs because for some reason or another, they themselves don't have it. Because sometimes, right, people cannot give what they don't have or never have, right? And sometimes it's best for the sake of that adult child now, to grieve the loss of this parent that they were looking for, and realize that they will never have. And when grief goes unspoken, it doesn't disappear. It hides inside, shaping how we relate to endings, to change, or even to love itself. And how these hidden wounds actually show up, right? How are they part of our daily lives? Um, so the hidden wounds actually can create emotions that feel out of place. Maybe you might feel sadness or anxiety that doesn't connect to your current situation, right? Feeling depressed and not knowing why, or anxious all the time, always on edge, but can't seem to figure out the trigger. Maybe you feel numb, unable to fully access joy or pain. That numbness it's often a sign of emotion that have been pushed down for too long. These hidden wounds can often also play out in our relationships. Maybe you pull away when people get too close to you, right? You don't feel safe. Maybe the belief there is that people are not trustworthy. Maybe you repeat painful cycles in love or friendship. Maybe you overfunction, always giving, fixing, and caretaking, because the underlying belief or core value is that if I do, if I keep doing, then eventually, right, I will be loved. Because deep down, there's a fear of abandonment. if you don't do anything, then that person will leave, or you will not be seen, you'll be abandoned. And they also show up in our bodies, right? Our bodies carry what our minds avoid. So having constant headaches or stomach ache, always feeling fatigued, tension in your shoulders or jaw. They can all be signs of stress and grief that were never processed. And now the body is telling the story even if we don't. And lastly, they can shape the way we see ourselves in a distorted way. So maybe you have constant negative thoughts about yourself, but don't know why. Maybe you carry shame that it isn't yours. You might have this feeling, this constant feeling that you're never enough, no matter what you do. Or you might feel, or you might constantly strike to prove your worth. You always gotta do more and more and more to show that, hey, I'm worthy. All of that is because deep down you feel that simply being yourself isn't acceptable. I like to picture hidden wounds as an invisible backpack. And it's like from the outside, no one sees it. And you might even forget that it's there. But day after day, you feel the weight. And it starts to change how you walk, how you move, and how much energy you have. So healing is actually noticing that backpack. And when we give ourselves permission to little by little take it off. Here are some simple ways to begin noticing and addressing your hidden wounds. As we said previously, knowing that it's there is the first step, right? We got to know what we have. We got to know what's hidden. We got to bring it to the surface, right? We got to see it so then we can address it. So ask yourself, where do I feel heaviness that doesn't match what's happening in my life right now? Right? Because that heaviness may be pointing to something old and not current. Journaling about part of your stories, or what stories or patterns from my family or community might still live in me. And when it comes to the body, grounding can help figure out where we hide stress. Take slow breaths and scan your body from head to toe while noticing where you hold tension. Your body often reveals what your mind has silenced. And always remember to reframe, to be gentle and compassionate with yourself. Having hidden wounds doesn't mean you are weak. It means you are human. Healing them is how you step into freedom. For my Haitian listeners, this one is especially close to home. As a community, we carry many hidden wounds. The weight of colonization, slavery, dictatorship, political violence, and migration. Even if we didn't live through those events ourselves, their echoes live in us. They show up in the silences, in our fears, and sometimes in our resilience too. Healing these wounds, these hidden wounds, doesn't erase our history. It honors it. It allows us to say, yes, this happened. Yes, it shaped us, but it will not define the future of who we are becoming. So, here's the truth. Hidden wounds may not be visible, but they are real, and you don't have to carry them forever. Healing begins with noticing, with giving words to what has been silent, and with taking small, compassionate steps toward release. Okay, y'all. If this episode spoke to you, please share it with someone else who might be carrying invisible weight. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And you can always connect with me through the link in the show notes. Until next time, remember, your hidden wounds deserve healing too. Thank you so much for tuning in into Wapkute Mapkuteo. I hope today's conversation gave you insights, practical tips, or encouragement to take care of your mental health and continue your healing journey. Be sure to subscribe, leave us a review from wherever you are listening, and share it with someone in your community who might need it too. For those listening from California, you can visit my Alma page in the description below to learn more about my individual therapy sessions and other services I offer. And remember, Wapkute Mapkuteo. Keep prioritizing yourself, keep learning, and let's heal, grow, and thrive together.